everybody, welcome back to the YourTango YouTube channel. I'm your host Elfie, and today we're going to be getting into some celebrity astrology. First up is our hottest new couple to the scene, Taylor Swift and Matty Healy. We're going to be breaking down both their individual birth charts and then doing some compatibility on this hot but controversial couple. First up is Taylor Swift, which so exciting. We have Taylor Swift's birth time, which is super rare. We almost never get celebrity birth times, but actually we have her birth time. December 13th, 1989, 5:17 a.m. Let's break down her birth chart, but let's get into a little bit about Taylor Swift. She has just embarked on her latest tour. She is hot out of a 6-year relationship with her past partner, and she is just taking over the world and entering a new relationship with Matty Healy. We all kind of know Taylor Swift has a history of writing all these breakup songs, getting into relationships. She's really living with her heart on her sleeve, not only with her partners, but with the public eye. It's very curious to see what the stars have aligned for this person to exist before us. Let us check it out. Right off the bat, we see that Taylor has her sun in Sagittarius, which Sagittarius is known as that freedom sign. They are out there pursuing their highest dreams possible. They are fearless, can be a little reckless, can be a little impulsive, just like any fire sign. But Sagittarius is really that leader in that type of sense that they are a go-getter. They are out there pursuing their dreams before anybody else. And we know that Taylor got off to a really quick start in her career. I think she was maybe 14 or 15 years old, maybe even a little younger when she was releasing her first songs, when she was signed to a record label. That is definitely that Sagittarius energy. She is just getting a jump start on anything she does. We see she has her moon. Okay, we got a lot of stuff going on with this moon. This is interesting. The moon is the ruler of our subconscious, of our emotions, of an inner self that we may not always show to people directly. It's something that we really need to kind of uncover for ourselves and understand where even our instincts and our reactions come from. So the moon being in Cancer, it is actually at home in that sign because Cancer is ruled by the moon. Cancer is the sign of I would say a maternal instinct. It is a water sign. It is all about a level of empathy, of getting in tune with other people, of getting a really deep connection. Cancers can also be known to almost be a little bit naggy, respectfully, but that is because they are just so tuned into other people, into other people's needs. And they are also, Cancer is a bit of a psychic sign as well, because it is that water sign, because again, it is always tuned into these other people. Even really quickly to break down those 3 water signs, Pisces is all about kind of the dream within the self. Scorpio is about the dream within our hidden desires. And Cancer is all about kind of that understanding other people's instincts, understanding that level of empathy and that level of intuition about other people just in general. So we're going to see the moon in Cancer. We can see that this can be an emotional person, for better or for worse. This is someone who is very tuned into the way they are feeling and the way everyone is feeling around them. So Taylor, I mean, honestly, we see all these breakup songs. That's really what she's so famous for. This is really this Cancer moon right here. And very interestingly enough, this moon in Cancer is opposite 1, 2, 3, 4 planets in her second house. Okay, so this, long story short, this is just a perfect concoction for an artist to get famous off writing breakup songs and actually even making a lot of their wealth off of this type of stuff. Let's break it down. So the second house is all about your finances, your possessions, your wealth you can accumulate. We have 4 planets in that house, which is called a stellium. This is just a supercharge within this part of someone's birth chart. So another very interesting thing about Taylor Swift's second house stellium in the house of finances, it all trines her midheaven, which a midheaven is your ideal path in the public world, in society. So in a trine is actually a very harmonious placement. That means that they are 3 signs apart. So all earth signs are a trine, all water signs are a trine. So in this situation, we have Capricorn, stellium trining, Virgo midheaven. So this is honestly a beautiful situation for someone to make their wealth through their public standing. This is someone, and as we have seen her accomplish this, Taylor Swift has made a lot of money, not just in an unknown way, in a secret way. She's not an investor in anyone else's project. She is invested her mind and her imagination, her responsibility and her originality into her midheaven, into her public standing, into her being that actual character who is channeling all of this. And a fascinating part, it's also sextile, which is also a very harmonious placement with Jupiter and with that moon in Cancer. So in her chart, that is actually the biggest shape in her chart. We have that midheaven connecting to that stellium in the second house, connecting to that moon and Jupiter. This is just a perfect situation for someone to become a superstar. All of this is also opposite her moon, so there is going to be some level of even heartbreak going on with the moon, some sort of tension with the moon that is going to benefit this house of finances. So that's very fascinating. We also have all of these planets in that second house opposite the moon, also opposite Jupiter, which is the planet of expansion and good luck, good fortune. Very interesting. So an opposition is all about being exactly 180 degrees opposite of each other. Now, for an opposition, this is not necessarily a bad thing. I don't like to see anything as bad. Opposites do attract, all right? Because there is that streamline of energy, things get supercharged, but one must learn how to understand, but one must learn how to navigate this intensity within themselves. It seems like Taylor is navigating this just fine. She has learned how to profit and actually expand her entire life in all her finances based on situations that she puts her emotional self in. It's very fascinating because we see a lot of other artists who are so focused on this image conceptually that they represent, but Taylor is really, even no matter how famous she gets, no matter how big of an A-lister she gets, she's always writing about these extremely personal songs that can actually even offend people because they know they're being written about. So that's just an interesting connection here. Again, that finances, that stellium in the second house of finances, which is super powerful, all opposite that moon, all kind of relying on her emotional interpretation of her circumstances. And we also have the moon in the 8th house. So 8th house is all about these unforeseen things, about going into that collective subconscious within humanity, going into these deepest, darkest struggles. There can also be a level of receiving inheritance with this house, but we really see, so that moon in Cancer, which is such an emotional, intuitive placement, all in that 8th house, which is diving into almost the deepest, darkest parts of human psychology. Again, all opposite that second house of finances and wealth. So we see that Taylor is able to use her emotional circumstance to tap into such a wide variety of people's experiences as well. She is, raised to the top of the charts based on that connection of writing about her personal experience, and that is able to connect with people all around the world to a huge scale. I mean, this woman sells out Madison Square Garden how many nights in a row? I mean, these tickets go for thousands of dollars because people feel that direct emotional connection to her. That also gives a love-hate relationship, I would say, to people in general. If you meet Taylor, you're either going to love her or hate her because she is going to kind of trigger things in yourself maybe you don't like. There's just going to be just an intense reaction within our own subconscious around this type of person that we might not even realize. So these are just some things going on with that 8th house, that moon in Cancer. But let's even just circle back to that second house, because there's, again, a stellium going on in there that is so much, especially that second house of finances. We have the planet of Mercury, which is the mind. We have Saturn, which is the planet of restriction and discipline. Neptune, the planet of imagination. And Uranus, the planet of originality, all happening within that second house of finances. That's insane. So all of these are very closely being conjunct. Mercury, planet of mind, and Neptune, I would say, are the closest conjunct, which conjunct means that they're happening in the same place in the sky. So having a conjunction means those planets are kind of supercharging each other. Even having a stellium, that is a supercharged times 4. Even having a stellium, that is supercharged to a whole nother level. A stellium is a pretty rare occurrence to have 4 or more planets in in one position or one house. A stellium is a very rare placement because that means 4 or more planets are all together, are almost nearly conjunct in the same house together. So we have Mercury, the planet of the mind, pretty much right lined up with Neptune, planet of imagination. And we know that Taylor, she is not famous for just anything. She is famous for writing music and writing songs. And she started as a girl in her bedroom playing her guitar. She has made millions and millions of dollars, and she's still doing that same exact thing. That is really a Mercury and Neptune conjunction there. The planet of the mind plus a planet of imagination all lined up in the second house of finances. That is a great thing for someone who is creative, using their mind in a creative way to make money. And also we have Uranus, that originality. Though Taylor she seems so familiar to all of us, she is kind of using these elements that everybody else does. What is a girl on acoustic guitar? That has been around for how many years? But no one is doing it exactly like Taylor. Taylor is a trendsetter by reinventing the way we even perceived breakup songs, the way we even perceived this guitar music, and even just her able to reinvent herself time and time again in her career. That is definitely going to be that Uranus in that second house. And I would say that all of her originality, it is geared to helping her financially, to helping her successfully. Now, all of these planets, so we have them as a conjunct of Saturn, which is a planet of discipline and restriction. So though Taylor has a lot of fruitful placements in this second house, there is also a level of restriction on her own mind, perhaps, because we have that the Mercury conjunct the Saturn, and this is all happening in Capricorn. Okay, so the second house is happening in Capricorn. All these, the planet of the mind, planet of imagination, Saturn is a planet of restriction, Uranus, originality, all happening in the sign of Capricorn. If people are not familiar with Capricorn, this is our work sign. It is the sign of the goat. And the goats, they have these hooves that can stand on the edge of a mountain where every other animal would just slide down, not be able to stand. They are able to climb the mountain gradually and surely with these little steps, with this amazing accuracy of their footing and knowing how to not fall down that slippery slope. So what does that metaphor mean in real terms? Capricorn is all the sign of public standing. Career is all the sign about career. They can come off emotionally aloof because they are so invested in a sense of logic, in a sense of being useful in the real world. So that's very interesting, where we see that Taylor Swift is not necessarily an ethereal character. Her songs are all about real situations that really happen to her and are very earthy in that way. She writes about, falling in love in the summer in a very specific place. Someone who would be a little more of an ethereal creatively would be FKA Twigs, where her songs are kind of almost existing in some other realm. So we see that Taylor Swift is really channeling that Capricorn energy, that grounding energy. It might even be, I don't want to say difficult to be around her. I would definitely say from all of this, Taylor Swift probably runs a very tight ship. To be around her, to be working on her team, she is very methodical. She is very carefully planning how to use all of these different elements in this Capricorn way. So Capricorn is even going to just ground even influences of Uranus, where Uranus is normally coming out of left field. It is this mad scientist, you don't expect it. Capricorn is really going to take that and utilize that in a practical manner that can serve that second house of finances. Very interesting stuff. Once again, this Capricorn grounding energy is opposite Cancer, which Cancer is that sign of the home. Cancer is the sign of intuition and emotions. And that is where her moon is. So she is using those very personal experiences and drawing it all back to this grounding financial wealth that she is able to obtain and able to sustain, which is very fascinating. Let me see, what else do we have going on here? We have Venus on the cusp of the second and third house. So Venus in Aquarius is going to be attracted to anyone marching to the beat of their own drum. She likes someone who is different from other people. Aquarius is ruled by Uranus, that mad scientist planet of originality. Aquarius is an air sign, so they require an intellectual stimulation, an intellectual connection to someone. And they also don't get close to just anyone. Aquarius is very particular. Though they may be liked by everyone, they themselves don't like everyone. And so we see Taylor, another thing also with Aquarius, because they don't like just everyone, they only like a few people, you will typically always see Aquarius who has they have a favorite person in their life, or they have their mate, and then they have everybody else. And so you don't see Aquarius always running with massive friend groups. They like to really get locked down and have that intimacy with that really special person of their choosing, and everybody else are kind of acquaintances. It can sometimes be even difficult to get it close to an Aquarius, especially this Aquarius in Venus. So this is going to give the way she approaches love and relationships just a sort of a detached but very fun spin. Aquarius is often very liked everywhere they go. They don't really rock the boat with people because they are just a bit more grounded in their energy than these other air signs. Aquarius is also a fixed sign. So though they are thinking outside of the box, though they are these mad scientists, Aquarius is notoriously stuck in their ways. So they can be a little bit stubborn. They can be a little bit argumentative. If you really find that button that pushes them, they are only open-minded, but in their own path that they see fit. So that is very interesting to keep in mind about who Taylor Swift has chosen as a mate, but we will get all into their compatibility. I just want to cover a couple more things about Taylor's chart. So we have Mars and her rising sign conjunct in Scorpio. Okay, so Taylor has, we have this nice, her moon in Cancer. She's such a little sweetheart at heart. We have this financial, in the financial house in Capricorn, which is just a grounded, sturdy individual. She is not as simple as she seems. With these Scorpio placements, there is a lot of depth going on beneath the surface here. In Scorpio, we have her rising sign, which is her outer sense of self. This is her default self that she will take with the world without even thinking. In a different way, where the moon is your emotional response, the rising is just your default in front of other people. So that rising sign is conjunct, which means at the same places in the sky as her Mars, which is physical and sexual energy. Even if you don't know anything about astrology, I'm sure you're aware of Scorpio. It is ruled by the Scorpion. It is also ruled by Pluto, the planet of death and transformation. Scorpio, I like to call the Slytherin of the Zodiac. Scorpio is all about seeing into the depths of people, seeing in between the lines. There is nothing pastel about a Scorpio. They are all or nothing. They are deep colors. It is about the depths of the ocean. Scorpios want intimacy. Scorpios want to dive deep, merge souls with the people they love. They want to, their stingers are out with people that they are not too fond of. And Scorpios are, the most loved or the most hated sign of the zodiac. It just depends on what side of a Scorpio you are on. So the interesting thing that Taylor has her rising sign as Scorpio. So we see that this may be someone who is a very intense and intuitive leader. All throughout Taylor's career, everyone has always kind of had a very intense reaction to her. Even though she is seen as this girl next door who just writes songs, people either love Taylor Swift or they hate her. She just has an intense effect on other people, whether she wants to or not. When she enters a room, all heads are turned, even if she didn't even say anything. It's something about the way she carries her aura, especially because this rising sign is conjunct, which means the same part of the sky has her Mars, which is physical and sexual energy. The way this woman carries herself, her power is felt without even being spoken. And it's all in Scorpio. So Taylor has this element of magnetism to her right off the bat. She is more than what she seems. She is deeper. She is more complicated. She is like the ocean. There is so much within her to explore. And this is all just based on her appearance, just based on her surface level being around her. Even the way Taylor operates within the public eye, she is not necessarily a passive person. She really stands up for what she believes in. She is so passionate about feminism. She is really willing to stand up for other people, stand up for herself, and really correct narratives that have gone wrong. Where we may see that other celebrities, they might disappear during a controversy, Taylor is there ready to tell you her side of the story, her peace of mind, and that is also one reason why her fans are so fiercely loyal to her. Because Taylor is so unafraid to stand up for herself, to stand up for what is right, This is so empowering to people around the world to watch her do this. And this is not necessarily her ever really playing the victim. She really likes to say her side of the story, to get that out, where again, other people may fall off the face of the earth and just wait for that controversy to end. Taylor is like, I don't think so. And this is all coming back to that rising Scorpio with that Mars there. She is ready for combat, emotionally or publicly. She is ready to fight for what she thinks is right. Another interesting part, she has her Pluto, which is also in Scorpio, which is a generational planet. Mine is also in Scorpio. Surprise, surprise. Pluto and Scorpio in her 12th house. So 12th house is all about self-undoing, about our karma, about the way we are connecting to a spirituality in our lifetime. And now Pluto, as we were saying, is kind of the Slytherin planet. It is at home and it's ruler of Scorpio. Pluto is all about death and transformation and rebirth. Pluto is the sign of unknown. It is a sign of chaos. It is a sign of the phoenix rising out of the ashes of the fire, which is something you wouldn't expect. If something gets burned down to ashes, we think that's the end of it. No. Pluto is here to tell you a phoenix is rising. Death is not the end. It is all about a transformation. This is all happening in her house of spirituality, in her house of karma. So Pluto is all in this house of spirituality. So there's something very personal, and this is not about what any of us in the world see, not even myself, not even her #1 fan. But this Pluto in the 12th house is all about Taylor's karma with her own spirituality. And she has probably gone through significant changes, significant evolutions that we may not have ever seen. We always see her very consistent as that blonde, blue-eyed brand with red lipstick, I think she always wears. But this Pluto transformations within herself, there is just such a deep level of, I don't want to necessarily say pain, but there's just a deep level of emotional baggage, if you will, that is constantly transforming in this lifetime, that she may have come in to this lifetime one way and she is leaving as a completely evolved person. And this is not going to be a walk in the park. Pluto is all about pushing you to your ego death. Pluto is all about that transformation, because you cannot be reborn until old parts of yourself die. So Taylor, I hope you just stay easy on yourself. I know things may get really difficult in terms of your own spiritual connection, in terms of even having faith in your transformations, but they are all leading for the best. So one example of this I can even think of with the Pluto in the 12th house is that when she went up to go accept an award, I don't know if any of us remember, this happened almost 10 years ago, if not longer, and the artist formerly known as Kanye West, he interrupted her speech and he took that moment away from her and said Beyonce should have won the award. And she was a little bit devastated, but Beyonce had ended up coming on stage, dedicating her speech to Taylor, to finishing her Taylor speech. And Taylor was able to use this experience to transform her career in a certain sense, and to use maybe even this devastating moment to find a deeper connection to herself. I would really say that that was the mark also of Taylor really standing up for herself after that point, really tapping into that other Scorpio parts of her chart. And it's like, never again. People can say anything about her, people can do anything to her, but she is really connecting to that transformation. You are never going to be able to put Taylor Swift's candle out. She is going to find a new way to transform herself, find a new way to come back. And I'm here to see it. I'm here. I love her latest album. I was never a Swiftie until her last album. And I could not stop listening to it when it came out. If only we could all just afford tickets, Taylor. That would be awesome. Let's move on to her next new controversial lover, Matty Healy. We all know and love him from being the lead singer-songwriter of 1975. He also makes a lot of splashes and headlines for potentially racially insensitive comments, even borderline misogynistic. Only time can tell. Only he can own up to whatever he has said, whatever is going on. If Taylor Swift can find it in her heart to love this man and give him another chance, maybe he's not as bad as he has come off in certain situations. Is this a tale of redemption for him by dating Taylor Swift? Well, let's look into this birth chart and see what is written in the stars. This is another really exciting chart because we have Matty Healy's birth time. So Matty Healy was born Saturday, April 8th, 1989 at 7:30 in the morning in North London. So let's take a look at this birth chart. Let's tango in the stars with Matty Healy. Okay, right off the bat, I am seeing a lot of Aries energy. We should have guessed it because this person does not exactly always think before he speaks. Okay, so we have a conjunction here, not quite a stellium, but very close. We have 3 planets all in Aries. We have Sun, which is the planet of the ego. We have Venus, planet of love and relationships, and also Mercury, planet of the mind. These are all conjunct in Aries. So Aries is the first sign of the zodiac. Aries is the pioneer. They are the leader. They will get people up and going, starting new projects, going. They might not necessarily known as the finisher of a project, but they are able to light that fire underneath people. They are pioneers. But what comes on the flip side of that is a level of impulsiveness, as with any fire sign. But what comes on that flip side is a level of impulsiveness, is an intensity to also not always think about other people involved. A good way to look at astrology is also to understand its opposites. So Aries is opposite Libra, which Libra is a sign of balance. It is a sign of partnership, of balancing those around you, almost operating as a mirror. Sometimes Libras can even have difficulties knowing their own sense of self because they are so caught up in balancing other people. Aries is the opposite of this. Aries is knocking over the scale. They are standing there by themselves. They are ready to, they have that sense of confidence. They have that sense of self-power, but their downfall is they're not always the most empathetic people. They are not always necessarily the most intuitive about the way other people are feeling, other people are thinking, but there is a lot of power in their tenacity to get going, to be fearless. It doesn't matter what anyone says about them. They will keep going with their dreams. They will keep fighting for that passion. And we know Taylor is a Sagittarius, so we can see right off the bat that those 2 fire signs are aligning. We will get more into their compatibility later, not to get ahead of myself. But we have the Sun, Venus, and Mercury all conjunct in Aries. So a conjunction is when planets are at the same part of the sky as each other. So this is all big Aries energy. This is someone who is really self-assured in their relationships, in their communication styles, in their mind, and also in their ego. Now, interestingly enough, these are all squaring their midheaven. So we know about the midheaven from earlier in this video. The midheaven is your public standing, your ideal path in the world. So the midheaven is squaring this man, Matty Healy, his sun, his Mercury, and his love and relationships planet of Venus. I'm not going to get all into the drama with Matty Healy, but if you do a quick Google search, you will understand that Matty Healy is in a lot of tabloids of being a rambunctious type of character. He will say anything. He will kind of do anything. He has this type of rock star persona that you wouldn't even necessarily expect due to his type of music. It's very kind of like a pop rock, soft music that, all ages can really enjoy. But the way he presents himself is not as an all ages character. He is, a bona fide rock star to himself, and we can see a clashing between the midheaven and all of these main planets, the Sun, Mercury, and Venus. So a square is when planets are at a 90-degree angle between each other. Now, there are no bad placements, but this is a disruption of energy. This is something almost like karmic tie in this lifetime where we are learning to work out the kinks in these energies to create a harmony in our personalities. Matty Healy does not have a natural harmony with his public standing in the world. There is a level of clashing who he identifies as, the way he thinks, and the way he operates in his relationships are going to clash with his public standing. And this, again, we've seen him in all sorts of headlines. This makes a lot of sense. We also, interestingly, have the rising in Taurus, which we know because we have his birth time, and we have Moon also in Taurus conjunct the rising. So the moon is the planet of the subconscious, planet of emotions. This is right on the rising sign, which is your outer self, the way you default when you deal with the outer world. So to have that moon, to have that inner world conjunct that rising sign, that means that there is a massive fluidity between the way he is deep down inside and also the way he projects himself outwards to people. I'm also almost laughing a little bit saying this because he projects himself as not the greatest type of person. So to find out that the moon is also conjunct there, where there is a deep down inside level to that type of behavior, is very interesting, to say the least. We also have those two, the moon and the rising, opposite Pluto. And Pluto is in Scorpio, which Pluto is a generational planet. I also have my Pluto in Scorpio. But the interesting and specific thing to Matty Healy's chart is that Pluto is opposite the moon and rising in Taurus. So Pluto is a planet of death and destruction, of chaos, of rebirth. So an opposition is when two planets are 100 degrees complete opposite each other. So there is a level of intensity. As we know, opposites do attract. So it's not necessarily a disruption of energy, but understanding how to channel that intensity between those. Because it's really just energy fleeing back and forth between two sides of a spectrum. And as any spectrum, we have, gender, masculinity, femininity, that's a spectrum. Up and down, that's a spectrum. Where do we fall in that intensity? So Matty Healy has a transformative connection to his public standing and also to his emotions as well. This could be hope. Okay, I think maybe perhaps Matty Healy has been channeling some sort of negative energy from this because he is very capable at being this brash, outspoken. You don't know what is going to come from this man. He is not politically correct and he does not care. Well, that is not the last hope for Matty Healy. Because of that Pluto opposition, there is massive potential for him to transform these traits. Instead of maybe giving into that level of chaos, he can use that chaos to elevate himself emotionally and also in his public standing. So we have that opposition, but that moon and the rising are in a lovely harmony with the Neptune and Saturn and Uranus. Okay, so this is where that creativity comes in for Matty Healy, because we have that moon, that subconscious, what's going on deep within ourselves. It is in a trine, which, as we know, a trine is 3 planets away from each other. All earth signs trine each other. All water signs trine each other. That moon is trining Neptune, the planet of imagination, and also the planet of Saturn, which is discipline and restriction. So that's an interesting thing where there is a lot of discipline going on with the way Matty Healy connects to his imagination. As you can see, he's a very talented human being. I think he plays a few instruments. He's also a singer. He has worked really hard to hone his craft, to hone that imagination, and also connecting that to his public standing, to the way his outer personality, and also his emotions. So we see someone who is very disciplined and very connected to their imagination, and that's absolutely beautiful. That is absolutely a core point into how he has come so far as a musician. We also have Mars in the 2nd house of Gemini. So Mars is the planet of physical and sexual energy. This is all happening in the 2nd house of finances. We are going to see someone who uses their physical energy to make money in a certain way, to accumulate wealth in this lifetime. So Matty Healy has really pushed himself forward. He is the leader of a band. He is really doing what it takes to put himself in these positions for financial success. So that's really awesome to see. What else do we have going on in this chart? We have Jupiter also in the 1st house of self, which this is actually a really good placement. Jupiter is the planet of expansion, of good fortune, and the 1st house is the house of self. So Matty Healy, no matter what he really does, he probably feels pretty good about himself. So that is a placement, for better or for worse. That is a good self-esteem placement, I would say. We have 3 planets in Aries: his sun, which is the ego, Venus, which is relationships, Mercury, which is the planet of the mind. This is all happening in Matty Healy's 12th house of karma. And all of that is squaring the midheaven of public standing. This is very interesting. Let's break this down. we have a significant component of Matty Healy's personality and birth chart in that 12th house of karma, of self-undoing, of things you need to realize in this lifetime. There is a very deep and personal connection to these planets, and the fact that they are squaring the midheaven, which midheaven, as we know, is your ideal path in the public life. So his ego, the way he connects to his relationships, and the way he thinks is at a karmic point in a disruption of energy to the way he carries himself publicly. And that really goes to show what we have seen in this person going forward. But there is, again, an ability to redeem yourself. The 12th house is all about changing and correcting this level of ego in this life. Self-undoing is all about not completely taking yourself out of the equation, but it's all about shadow work. It's all about taking apart the things that are not working in your personality, being brutally honest with yourself, and even detaching from this identity you thought you had in this world. There is so much deeper stuff going on. There is so many chapters to our lives. And Matty Healy, this is a chapter for you where you could channel that Taylor Swift energy and just find some grounding in your life. We have a lot of Aries going on, a lot of fire signs, especially that Mars in Gemini is very flighty all over the place. And Gemini is the duality sign. There are two sides to a Gemini. It just is. We want to call that two-faced or not. There's many different ways to see it. An unevolved Gemini is going to kind of tap into that two-face a little more, where things are not exactly what they seem. That Mars in Gemini, that is someone who can be sporadic, who is not sitting in one place for long. This is a person who is gathering information from so many different places. He probably is very excited to learn new things. It's a part of the way he carries himself, is to absorb new information, is to connect to new people, is to chat it up with people. And that's all in that second house of finances. And you can really hear that Mars in Gemini in Matty Healy's music. He has kind of a light and airy flow to the music. I would not say it's overly emotional type of music, contrary to Taylor Swift, which is very personal, very specific. Matty Healy's is a little more flowy, a little more airy. You can kind of catch a drift of a good time in this music. 1975 is great music to put on at a party, at a photo shoot, at just having a good time. And that Mars and Gemini is really there for that. So Matty Healy, especially having all those three planets in the 12th house squaring that midheaven, there is a level of karma with that ego, with the way he thinks, with the way he approaches relationships, self-undoing himself within those situations, especially because those are all in the sign of Aries, which is the sign of self. It's all happening in the 12th house of self-undoing. So the biggest thing we can take away from Matty Healy's birth chart is we have those three planets: the sun, which is the ego, Venus, the relationships, Mercury, the planet of the mind. This is all happening in the 12th house of self-undoing, in the sign of Aries, which is the sign of the self. So there are certain things where Matty Healy needs to deconstruct the way he just automatically jumps into things, even the way he relates to his own ego, the way he relates to his relationships, and the way he relates to communicating with others. There needs to be some sort of self-reflection, some shadow work about that. Matty Healy needs to deconstruct his own relationship with himself to find a level of spirituality, to find a deeper truth, because all of those things are in that 12th house. So that is a very spiritual placement potentially, but he needs to do all of that work, and all of that work will be driven by that square of that midheaven. So hopefully all of these things that we have seen in the headlines that are unsavory are helping Matty Healy become a better and better person. And now let us get into the compatibility. We have the synastry between Matty Healy and Taylor Swift. I know there is a lot going on the screen. Bear with me here. So we have on the inside is Matty Healy's placements, and on the outside of the chart are Taylor Swift's placements. Very interestingly, we have that bad boy Matty Healy. We have the girl next door, America's sweetheart, Taylor Swift. Surprisingly, their charts are very compatible. To start, we already have a lot of harmony going on between their sun signs. Taylor is a Sagittarius, Matty is an Aries, and we know those are two fire signs. They are trine, so that is a really nice harmony. We also have a trine in between Matty's sun and also Taylor's Mercury, and also Matty's sun and Taylor's Venus are all trining each other. These are three excellent placements, especially the suns trining each other, which any placement is a little bit rare because we need them to perfectly line up on certain degrees. Those suns that are trining each other, this is going to lead a lot of pleasant harmony in between their egos. They really understand each other at a core level. Aries and Sagittarius make perfect friendships, perfect lovers, and also being those two fire signs, I'm sure it's very exciting to be with them, to be around them, to see this dynamic duo in action. They are having a lot of fun. They are living in the moment, getting to know each other. Fire signs are some of the most fun in the zodiac, and so when two fire signs pair up, the rest is history. They're having a lot of fun, and also Matty's sun is trining Taylor's Mercury. So that, and Mercury is the planet of the mind, Sun is the planet of the ego. The way Taylor thinks, it goes in harmony also with Matty's ego. So there is a certain way, the way she presents herself, the way she communicates, they are in sync of communicating with each other and complementing each other in fundamental ways. Then we also have Matty's sun trines Taylor's Venus. All three of Taylor's sun, Mercury, and Venus, they all trine Matty's sun. So not only is Taylor's communication style, Taylor's sense of ego, but also the way she approaches love and relationships is in complete sync with Matty's sun, which is his ego. So there is a way of just absolute complete harmony. It's not only just about like between these two people, it's about love. It would be a good idea for them to even schedule plenty of leisure time together. They are sure to get a huge recharge of energy just being around each other because of that level of harmony. They really enjoy each other's company, but also each other's taste and each other's interests. There's a level of built-in respect for who the other individual is. It's really awesome to get those three main planets as a trine with your partner. So this is actually a couple that are highly capable of charming each other, not just in the honeymoon phase, but in a long-term relationship. The only downside of this, because we have so much harmony going on, this couple might gloss over problems because they want to just resume that harmony, that glorious moments of connection and compatibility with each other. So I would recommend Matty and Taylor, don't gloss over those issues. I know you guys have that built-in harmony, have that built-in sense of fun, but also going through those difficult times together is also going to build a great foundation beyond just having fun together. We also have another amazing harmonious placement. We have a conjunction, which means that is when two planets are in the same point in the sky as each other. Matty's Mercury, the planet of the mind, planet of communication, conjuncts Taylor's Uranus, planet of originality, and Neptune, planet of imagination. This is a couple where they get along on an intellectual and also imaginative level. The way one of them thinks is directly aligned with the vision of the other. So where one can maybe be getting even lost in their dream, the other one intuitively understands and put into words that dream and those thoughts. This may seem like a dream come true for Taylor, where she may be living in her originality, in her imagination, and she has found someone who completely understands the way she imagines things and the way she approaches things from an original perspective. In those cases, those are very dreamy situations. That's very difficult to explain those to other people. And those types of planets are often show, don't tell. But Matty is someone who she can tell these things to, and he can understand. Their communication styles are perfectly in sync with each other. And not only does he understand her, but together they can come up with new original ideas. This is a couple I would be really excited for them to make some songs together, to see them really put that creativity, put that connection to the test, and share with all of us their potential for creative power as this super couple in front of us. A difficult aspect we have coming our way, we have Matty's moon squaring Taylor Swift's lunar node. So the planet of the moon is all about your emotions, your subconscious, and your lunar node is a level of a destiny of doing what's right. So this is a conflict because there is a square. That means a 90-degree angle. That is a disruption of energy. This can be a couple, though they are madly in love, they can enable each other potentially into bad habits, bad circumstances, and even maybe sometimes even feel smothered in that. There is just some risk of codependency, but we have a lot of other harmonious traits to keep them afloat. Now we have some intense synastry coming our way. Matty's moon is opposite Taylor's Pluto. As we know, Pluto is kind of the Slytherin of the zodiac. It's all about chaos, death, transformation, rebirth, pushing people to the edge, pushing people to non-conform. Pluto is punk rock, okay? So Taylor's Pluto is opposite Matty's moon, which is his emotions, his subconscious. There are ways where their egos and their minds, they have perfect harmony, but there may be a sense of where Matty is coming from emotionally that is going to trigger these rebirths within Taylor, or vice versa. Taylor could also be pushing that emotional sphere of Matty to evolve. So having that moon opposite Pluto in any compatibility synastry readings, this is going to be a great physical and or emotional attraction. You cannot keep these two apart. As we know, opposites attract. And the moon is a sensitive, emotional, subconscious side of us. And Pluto is the outer rim of the universe. This is where chaos happens. This is destruction. This is pushing people to transform. So we have a level of safety with a level of chaos. And those are opposite each other. So there is going to be perhaps a level of storminess. Now, it may start out as an irresistible connection between these two, but there can be a level of not necessarily knowing when to let things go sometimes, where Taylor could potentially be pushing Matty's emotions in a certain way that he is not ready for, he is not comfortable for. But as we know in Matty's birth chart, there are a lot of evolutions that need to occur for him. So Taylor could be a great person in his life to push him to transform into this new version of himself. And especially we have Matty's moon conjunct his rising. That is all going to be opposite Taylor's Pluto. So Taylor really could be a catalyst to seeing Matty become the man he's always supposed to be. He could make or break under this influence. Taylor is a force to be reckoned with. The worst case scenario, this is going to be a really difficult relationship for both of them to get over because they started out with such intense attraction towards each other. We also have Matty's moon opposite Taylor's Uranus, which Uranus is that mad scientist marching to the beat of their own drum. This is the planet that is sending things coming out of left field, kind of disrupting routines, sending a wrench in your plans and forcing you to think on your feet. Again, Matty's moon, which is an emotional sphere, is opposite Taylor's originality, Taylor's ability to defy routine and break through to new bounds creatively in so many ways. So this is not necessarily a harmonious aspect. This is the aspect that really points to the fact that this relationship was formed impulsively, that they didn't think too much about it. The Uranus just really jumped into this without thinking, and the moon person, which is Matty, who felt a level of emotional connection to this new sense of, and the moon person, which is Matty, feeling a connection to that Uranus, that new sense of breaking routines, of breaking the mold of what he's used to and just jumping into this. And so because the Uranus is that mad scientist, is that kind of throwing a wrench in your plans, there can be a level of instability to this love. Yes, it started really impulsively. Their feelings could potentially change very quickly and very unexpectedly. Matty might even find it even potentially draining to be around Taylor because of that opposition happening. So that is a level for him to keep in mind, that this may not be a commitment of a lifetime. This may not be a completely reliable and stable relationship for Matty, surprisingly enough. But on the other hand, there are exciting changes that could be on the horizon. Again, it is all determined by Matty's ability to evolve. Especially we have Taylor's Pluto and Uranus opposite his moon. She is going to be triggering him to his core to becoming a new type of person. If he wants to stay the same, this relationship is probably not going to last very long. But if he is willing and able to work with her, and she is such a grounded person, she is so methodical, especially the way she can approach her midheaven, that is a perfect trine to her public standing. In a way, he has a square to his midheaven. He has a lot to potentially learn from her. It all depends on how open he is to our lovely Tay-Tay. Going into some more, we have Matty's Venus is trine Taylor's Jupiter. So this is an aspect that is good for their union. Venus is the planet of relationships. Jupiter is a planet of expansion and good fortune. These are trine, which trine is essentially a 45-degree angle. It is a harmony between planets. This is a couple that is happy to be alive and be together. They feel like they are expanding their world, expanding their life by being together. We have that Jupiter expansion with that Venus of relationships. This is something that seems like the horizons know no bounds. They can conquer anything they put their minds to as long as they are together. They enjoy each other's company. They put each other in a good mood. Jupiter is all about, again, lifting those spirits. Jupiter is associated with forgiveness and grace. And so we're going to be seeing from Taylor, because she is the Jupiter person in this placement, she is going to be holding a lot of forgiveness and a lot of grace in the way she can relate to Matty, and also the way he carries himself in relationships. Quite frankly, we've seen a lot of unsavory parts of him in the headlines. I'm sure she's had to do a lot of forgiveness already to really get to the depths of Matty. This is someone who is trying to dive into him on a very deep personal level, especially she has so many placements related to his moon sign. She is not really caring about what he seems like on the outside. She is really there for him emotionally and transforming him at his core, which is absolutely beautiful. Up next, we have Matty's Jupiter is opposite Taylor's Uranus. So Jupiter, like we were just talking about, is all about expansion, good fortune, and like we were saying, Uranus is all about that mad scientist, about creating new things, invention. What you did not expect to happen is going to happen. And so we have an opposition here, which is a 180-degree complete opposition. There is a channeling of energy between these two planets in these people. And so this can maybe be that there is a different type of approach to life. Maybe Matty wakes up at noon and drinks a beer for breakfast, but Taylor Swift is waking up at 6 a.m., eating her granola, going to the gym. These types of things, they're not maybe necessarily expanding in a way that is necessarily in sync. We do have a good harmony between Taylor's Jupiter, but Matty's Jupiter is in that opposition of Taylor's Uranus. This is another aspect where along the way, maybe 6 months to a year from now, this couple may have difficulty finding what they even have in common. Yeah, they got together because we have all these other aspects that are just attracting them to each other. We see opposites attract. We see a level of intrigue of people on two sides of a spectrum coming together, fascinated by their chemistry. But is this sustainable? Only time will tell. This is a placement that is saying that maybe eventually they are going to run out of things to talk about, run out of things that they have in common. Again, Matty is being pressed to evolve in this situation. It is really all up to that. So Matty and Taylor's rising sign, which is their outer sense of self, are complete opposite each other. Matty is a rising Taurus. Taylor is a rising Scorpio. They both have a level of intensity in the way they carry themselves, but they do it in complete opposite ways. Taylor is almost a bit more stoic. She is a bit more calculated. She still has backbone to stand up for what she believes in, but she is not being very messy with her public image. Everything is very controlled, very concise. She is very aware of her impact on the public eye and utilizing that for her brand. Where Matty is a bit more reckless, a bit more chaotic with the way he approaches himself in terms of his public standing and the way people perceive him. He is not so careful, or perhaps maybe he just likes to have that bad boy type of brands. Will this evolve? Again, we will see. Are these opposites going to really attract to each other, or is it going to repel? I can't wait to see this relationship play out. Matty, you may have a lot to apologize for, but Taylor Swift is not one of them. We love to see our Tay-Tay happy and enjoying life. Please don't break her heart. If you do, well, we are probably going to get a great song about it either way. Hope you guys write some songs while you are together. This concludes our video of their compatibility. Please leave some comments below. Any questions, any thoughts you have. Do you think this couple is going to stay together? How long are they going to break up? Let me know. I am your host, Elfie. This was YourTango, and I'll see you guys next time.